Overthinking is not a sign of intelligence. It's a trap of the mind that keeps you stuck in fear and illusion. The Shaolin path is not about thinking more, it's about thinking less and living more. If you truly want peace, you must learn the way of mental silence. Let me show you the key. The mind is a powerful servant, but a terrible master. This is a truth you must understand deeply. Overthinking is when the mind refuses to stop replaying, analyzing, and worrying. It builds mountains out of moments. It traps you in a prison made of what-ifs and what could-have-beens. But here's the secret. Overthinking is not your nature. It is a habit, and like all habits, it can be unlearned. In Shaolin philosophy, we are taught one simple truth. Where attention goes, energy flows. If you feed the noise in your head, it will grow louder. If you learn to focus your attention on the breath, on the body, on the moment, then the noise begins to fade. You see, the overthinking mind is like muddy water, stirred by fear, by doubt, by the illusion of control. But if you allow it to be still, the mud settles, clarity comes. So, how do you stop overthinking? You do not fight the thoughts. You observe them. You do not try to control the outcome. You surrender to the present moment. You do not live in your head. You return to your body, stand up, breathe deeply, feel your feet on the ground, feel the breath moving through your nose. Feel your heart beating right now. So, how do you stop overthinking? You do not fight the thoughts. You observe them. You do not try to control the outcome. You surrender to the present moment. You do not live in your head. You return to your body, stand up, breathe deeply, feel your feet on the ground, feel the breath moving through your nose, feel your heart beating right now. That is reality. Everything else is a story. Overthinking thrives in inaction, but action destroys fear. Take the first step, not the perfect one, not the final one, just one step. That is all you ever need, because the truth is, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them, and when you return to that awareness, when you train it, sharpen it, discipline it, then your mind becomes a tool, not a trap. Stop feeding the storm. Stop waiting for peace. Start becoming it, and remember, you are not here to overthink life. You are here to live it. Understand the nature of the mind. The mind is not your enemy, but if you do not understand it, it becomes your prison. We were never taught how to deal with the mind. We were taught how to calculate, memorize, and analyze, but never how to sit with our own thoughts. And so, the mind runs wild, constantly jumping between the past and the future, never allowing us to truly be. Overthinking is not intelligence. It is disorder. It is the result of a mind that has not been trained, a mind that reacts to everything, a mind that believes every thought it generates. But you must realize, not every thought is true. Not every thought deserves your attention. The mind produces thoughts the same way the body produces sweat. It's natural, but just because a thought appears does not mean you have to chase it. You see, the untrained mind is like a child running with a sword, dangerous, undirected, and restless. But when you begin to observe it, when you begin to sit with it, to understand its patterns, you regain control. You do not stop overthinking by thinking harder. You stop it by understanding the mechanism behind it. When you know that your mind is trying to protect you from danger, by imagining every scenario, every outcome, you can thank it. But then you must gently take the wheel, because overthinking doesn't protect you. It paralyzes you. In Shaolin practice, we say, a distracted mind is a suffering mind. A focused mind is a free mind. Focus is not about blocking thoughts. It is about returning again and again to the present moment, to the breath, to the movement, to the now. You were not born to be lost in thought. You were born to awaken from it, and that awakening begins the moment you stop fighting your mind and start understanding it. Shift from thinking to feeling. You don't think your way into peace. You feel your way back to presence. Overthinking begins the moment you disconnect from your body. You leave the present moment. You abandon your breath. You climb into your head and build stories out of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And the longer you stay there, the more you lose touch with reality. But the body never lies. It is always in the present. It doesn't analyze the past. It doesn't fear the future. It only knows now. So if you want to stop overthinking, you must shift your attention from thought to sensation, from analysis to awareness. From the noise in your head to the stillness in your chest. Close your eyes. Breathe in. Do you feel it? Your breath entering the body like a silent wave. Your feet grounding you to the earth. The quiet pulse in your fingertips. This is where peace lives, not in the solving, not in the searching, but in the feeling. In Shaolin training, we are taught to feel every step of our walk, to taste every sip of water, to listen not just with the ears, but with the whole body. This is mindfulness, not as a technique, but as a way of life. Your mind may speak 1,000 words, but the body whispers one truth: I am here. Return to that truth, not once, but over and over again, until it becomes your natural state. Thinking is what the mind does, but being is what the soul remembers. And when you feel fully, you no longer need to figure everything out. You just begin to live. Master the breath to master the mind. When the breath is steady, the mind becomes silent. There is a force within you that is more powerful than your thoughts. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It does not seek control. It is the breath. The breath is the bridge between the body and the mind. It is the one thing that remains constant. Through fear, through chaos, through confusion. It has always been there, from the moment you were born. But most people never learn to use it. They breathe without awareness. They exist without presence. And so the breath remains shallow and the mind remains restless. In Shaolin philosophy, we do not begin by fighting the mind. We begin by calming the breath. When the mind is racing, return to the breath, slowly, deliberately, like a monk walking through a storm, not running, not panicking, just walking. Inhale, feel the coolness entering your nostrils. Exhale, feel the warmth leaving your body. That is life moving through you. That is presence in its most sacred form. No thought can overpower a steady breath. No fear can survive in the presence of deep awareness. The breath teaches us discipline. It teaches us patience. It teaches us that we do not need to rush or solve or overanalyze. We only need to breathe. When you learn to command your breath, you are no longer a slave to emotion. You do not react blindly. You respond with clarity. One breath, one moment. That's all it takes to return to yourself. Because when the breath is mastered, the mind follows. And when the mind follows, you are free. Choose awareness over reaction. The gap between thought and action is where your freedom lives. Overthinking is not the problem. Identification with thinking is. You believe every thought. You attach emotion to it. You react to it instantly, without space, without awareness. But there is another way. The Shaolin path teaches this. The mind is not the enemy. Reaction is. The awakened human being does not react blindly. He observes, she pauses. They sit in the fire of discomfort without flinching. Most people hear a thought and respond instantly. That is reactivity. It creates chaos, misjudgment, and suffering. But awareness is different. Awareness says, I see this thought, I feel this emotion, but I do not have to act on it. This is the beginning of inner mastery. You do not have to believe the story in your head. You do not have to chase every impulse. You are not a leaf in the wind. You are the sky, watching the storm pass. When someone speaks to you with anger, pause. When fear rises in your chest, pause. When your mind begins to spiral, pause. That moment of stillness is where your power lies. It is the difference between slavery to the mind and sovereignty over it. In Shaolin training, we call this internal space. It is where the monk finds his calm. It is where the warrior chooses not to fight. It is where the human being becomes conscious. So remember this, you are not your first thought. You are not your emotion. You are the awareness watching it all arise and fade. Choose that awareness. And your life will no longer be a reaction. It will become a response, guided by wisdom. Let go of the illusion of control. Control is the mind's favorite illusion, but peace is found in surrender. Most overthinking begins from the desire to control. To control outcomes, to control what others say, to control the future, to protect yourself from failure, from pain, from uncertainty. But the more you try to control, the more you suffer. Because no matter how carefully you plan, no matter how deeply you analyze, life will still do what life does. It will surprise you. It will change direction. It will test your attachment to control. In Shaolin philosophy, we are taught this simple truth. Control is tension. Surrender is strength. The tree that tries to resist the wind breaks, but the bamboo bends and flows, and because it bends, it survives the storm. You see, the need for control is rooted in fear, fear of losing, fear of the unknown, fear of being powerless. But the deeper truth is this: you were never in control. You only thought you were. The weather changes. People leave, the body ages, situations shift, and yet within all that change you can find stillness. Not by gripping tighter, but by letting go. Letting go does not mean giving up. It does not mean becoming passive. It means showing up fully, acting with presence, but releasing attachment to the outcome. That is real strength, to do your best, and then surrender what is beyond you. Overthinking is the mind's way of trying to predict every step, but life does not follow your thoughts. It follows its own rhythm, so learn to walk with life, not against it. Let go, and watch how peace returns, not as something you earn, but as something that was waiting for you all along. Turn repetition into reflection. Overthinking repeats, reflection reveals. There is a cycle that traps many minds. A thought appears, you replay it, you analyze it, you rehearse a conversation that already passed, you imagine outcomes that haven't yet arrived. This is repetition. It is a loop. It drains your energy, clouds your mind, and fills your life with noise. And the most dangerous part, it feels productive, but it leads nowhere. Now compare that to reflection. Reflection is still. It is conscious. It asks, why is this thought returning? What is it showing me? What can I learn from this? Then let go. In Shaolin practice, we are taught, the mind is like a bell. Strike it once and let the sound fade. Do not strike it again and again just to hear the same sound. Overthinking is that constant striking. You replay the same moment, yet nothing changes. Reflection is when you strike once, listen fully, then release. So how do you shift? You begin by becoming aware of the loops. Notice when you're just repeating thoughts, without insight, without clarity. Then pause, breathe, ask a better question. Ask, what is the lesson here? What am I avoiding by clinging to this thought? Is this memory helping me grow, or just keeping me stuck? Reflection transforms thought into growth. Overthinking just keeps you circling in fear. You don't need more mental noise, you need mental stillness, and in that stillness, reflection will rise. This is not about suppressing thoughts. It's about rising above them, not by force, but by understanding. Let repetition fall away. Let reflection guide your steps forward, one quiet, conscious moment at a time. Use movement as meditation. Stillness of the mind does not always begin in stillness of the body. When the mind becomes loud, when your thoughts spiral into chaos, what do? Most try to sit still. They close their eyes, but inside they are still running, because stillness is not the absence of motion. Stillness is the presence of awareness. In Shaolin teaching, we understand that sometimes the body must lead the way. When the mind is too heavy, when sitting makes the storm louder than walk, move, let your body begin where your mind cannot, walk slowly, feel your feet against the earth, feel each step like a beat in a sacred rhythm. Stretch deliberately, breathe into the space where tension lives, move with the grace of someone not trying to get anywhere, but simply to return to this moment. This is not exercise, this is presence in motion. This is movement as meditation. The monk walking down the mountain, his steps are not rushed, his eyes are soft, his breath is calm. He is not walking to escape thought, he is walking through it. You can do the same. Wash a dish, clean your space, practice martial movement, not to distract yourself, but to inhabit yourself, to return from the noise in your head to the wisdom in your body, because sometimes the most powerful silence is found while moving. Let the body become your guide, let the breath be your rhythm, let your focus become your freedom, and soon you will realize you were never trying to escape the mind. You were only learning how to move with it until it finally became still. Replace rumination with ritual. If you do not train your mind will train you. Overthinking feeds on disorder. It thrives in empty moments, when the mind has no direction, when there is no structure, no clarity, no inner compass. And in that space, rumination begins. You repeat old conversations, you worry about things that haven't happened, you replay regrets like a song stuck in your head, and the more you think, the more tangled you become. So how do you stop it? Not by force, not by running away from thought, but by building a container strong enough to hold your mind. That container is ritual. Ritual is not habit. It is not routine. It is sacred rhythm. In Shaolin life, we begin the day with silence. We prepare tea with full presence. We sweep the floor not just to clean it, but to calm the mind. Every action becomes a meditation. Every movement becomes a message to the mind. You are not in control. I am. When you create rituals, you give your mind structure. You teach it when to rest, when to focus, and when to release. You give the mind less space to wander and more space to be still. So, wake up with purpose. Begin your day the same way each morning, not out of boredom, but out of discipline. Sit in silence. Drink your tea with both hands. Walk slowly. Write your thoughts on paper, not to solve them, but to release them. These rituals are anchors. They bring your mind back to the body, back to the breath, back to what is real. Overthinking is passive. Ritual is intentional. When your day is filled with conscious actions, there is no room left for unconscious thought. Train your life like a monk trains his body with presence, with structure, and with care, and you will find that the mind doesn't need to be fought. It only needed to be led. Make peace with the past. You cannot carry the past and still walk freely into the present. Overthinking often comes from one source, the past, what you said, what they said, what you should have done, what you wish had gone differently, and so you play it again and again. You search for answers in a story that has already ended. But no amount of thought can change what has been. No amount of regret can rewrite the moment. You are holding onto a shadow, and it is blocking the light of this moment. In Shaolin philosophy, we are taught, let the past be your teacher, not your cage. The wound happened. The mistake was made. The words were spoken, but the lesson, that is yours to carry. The pain, no. The memory, no. The wisdom, that stays. Making peace with the past does not mean forgetting. It means no longer reliving. It means looking at what happened with still eyes and saying, this made me more awake, not more broken. If you cannot forgive others, start by forgiving yourself. Forgive the version of you who didn't know better. Forgive the you who acted out of fear, confusion, or pain, because you cannot heal while you are still punishing yourself. You cannot be present while dragging the weight of a life already lived. In the monastery, we sweep the temple floors every morning. Not because they are always dirty, but to practice clearing the dust before it builds. You must do the same with your heart. Clear it gently, repeatedly, so that you are free to meet the new day with an open mind and an unburdened soul. Peace is not found in the past. It is only found when you stop fighting it. Silence is not empty. It's full of answers. In silence, the mind surrenders and the soul speaks. Most people are afraid of silence, not because it's empty, but because in silence they finally hear themselves, and what they hear often scares them. The mind craves distraction. It fills the space with sound, stimulation, stories, noise, anything to avoid stillness, because in stillness you come face to face with your fears, your wounds, your truth. But the Shaolin path teaches this. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of clarity. When you sit in silence, you don't escape the world. You return to it with open eyes, with calm breath, with inner balance. You begin to see how much of your life has been lived in reaction, how many of your thoughts were not yours, but echoes of fear, culture, memory. And then, within the silence, something shifts. You no longer seek answers from the outside. You listen inward, you feel, you observe, and from that depth, truth begins to rise. In the monastery, we train in silence. Not to retreat from life, but to face it more fully, to hear the breath, to feel the heartbeat, to recognize the space between thoughts and realize that space is you. You are not the noise, you are the watcher. You are the stillness behind the storm. Silence doesn't require perfect conditions. It requires courage, the courage to be still, to stop escaping, to sit with your experience as it is, without running. Because silence will not hurt you, avoiding it will. The answers you've been chasing, they're already inside you, but you won't hear them if you don't get quiet. So sit, breathe, return. Let silence become your teacher, and it will show you what the mind never could. You have now been shown the keys not to control the mind, but to understand it, not to escape thought, but to rise above it. Overthinking is not solved by thinking more. It is dissolved by presence, by breath, by stillness. You do not need to become someone new. You only need to return to what has always been within you: discipline, awareness, silence, simplicity. This is the way of inner mastery. This is the path of peace. So walk it not in haste, not with fear, but with quiet strength, step by step, breath by breath, until your mind becomes a tool and no longer a trap. This is how you stop overthinking, not with force, but with understanding, not someday, but now.